The name storm, so that's where you start with the A and then go down the alphabet. So we haven't even given an A name to any storm yet this season.
No, not yet. And again, that would be the National Hurricane Center that would officially give the designation. Like I said, we're designating it here at AccuWeather as a tropical rainstorm, but that does not have a name attached to it. The National Hurricane Center is the official kind of naming agency that will officially attach a name to the system. And like you said, yeah, it will go A to Z. There are a few letters that don't have names, like Q. There's no Q name. So there's a few letters in there that don't actually have names, but most of the letters are available to be used.
Now, you are AccuWeather's lead hurricane forecaster, so to ask you the question that's on everyone's mind, how bad will hurricane season be this summer? Can you tell us?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be pretty busy for the whole summer. Like I said, we've had a slow start, or not much action early in the season, but I am very concerned that as we get into the heart of the season, which is kind of the back half of August, September, and kind of into October, that's kind of the most active period in the Atlantic Basin. I'm really concerned that things could ramp up really quickly, especially in the month of August here. We're dealing with very warm sea surface temperatures. In fact, if you take an average of the entirety of the Atlantic Basin, we've never seen sea surface temperatures this warm. 2023 was the warmest average sea surface temperatures that we've seen across the Atlantic Basin. And right now, 2024, we're outpacing 2023 by just a little bit. So if we stay on that pace, we could set another record for the warmest ocean temperatures on record in the Atlantic by the time we get to the heart of the season. And I will say it's not only the sea surface temperatures that we're concerned about, it's the temperatures with depth. So it's not only right at the surface, you also have to look down into the ocean to really get a good picture. Now, I was looking at some data earlier, and there's areas near Jamaica, Western Caribbean, that if you take the 80-degree, water temperature line, essentially, it extends down 300 to 400 feet below the surface. So that's 80 degrees Fahrenheit water temperature, 300 to 400 feet down into the ocean. And that is very, very early that we're seeing this. Typically, we don't see this until mid to late August, and we're seeing this in mid-June. So that just adds a lot of fuel to these hurricanes, gives them a lot of fuel to work with, and it can lead to what we call rapid intensification, which is when a tropical cyclone increases its winds by about 35 miles per hour in a 24-hour period. We've seen this, it seems like, more frequently over the last couple of years. Think back to Hurricane Ian, impacted Florida a couple of years ago, moved off of Cuba, and as soon as it got into the Gulf of Mexico, just rapidly exploded and then moved in just south of Tampa. So unfortunately, that's what we're really concerned about, is that we could have a system, maybe it looks fairly benign, not a big deal, could be a tropical storm, people may not take it seriously, and then all of a sudden you might have a major hurricane on your doorstep 24 to 36 hours later. So we really don't want people to become complacent. We want people to have their hurricane plans in place and to really pay attention to the forecast, as things can change very rapidly.
So when you say you're worried about the intensification, are you primarily worried about the wind speeds we could see during hurricane season this year, or are you also worried about the rainfall that we could see?
Yeah, every storm's a little bit different. A lot of the rainfall depends on how fast the storm is moving. Sometimes we have fairly weak storms that produce a ton of rainfall. I mean, just look at this tropical rainstorm. It doesn't even have a name, and it's producing 4 to 8 inches so far, with another maybe 6 to 12 on the way. So, the strength of the system doesn't necessarily dictate the amount of rainfall. Every system's a little different. I am concerned about kind of the wind speeds and the storm surge that could be associated with rapidly intensifying storms. Again, we'll kind of go back to that Ian example. Ian was a major hurricane when it made landfall there in southwest Florida, and it pushed a lot of water inland. We saw storm surges, 10 to 15 feet in southwestern Florida, and that's just something you can't survive if you're on the coast. You have to evacuate. You have to think, when we talk about storm surge, that is the water above normally dry ground. So if you go to the beach essentially and you stand right at where the water touches your toes, and we talk about a 5 to 10 foot storm surge, essentially that's like the height of you, if not taller, right? And then just extending inland. So that's kind of how I like to describe it to people. And if you're a coastal community, you have to evacuate under those circumstances because it's very, very dangerous. Storm surge and rainfall flooding are the biggest killers in tropical systems. A lot of people think about the wind. The wind does kill people, but the real danger is water. Water is the true killer in hurricanes, and that's why we really emphasize people to listen to their emergency managers and government officials, and to take evacuation orders very, very seriously, because water is the deadliest thing in a hurricane, and that's really what we want people to avoid. They say you can hide from the wind, but you have to run from the water. So that's kind of what we like to really emphasize to people. So yeah, just please listen to your emergency managers and listen to their advice.